Is everyone okay if I get started? You can come a bit further forward if you want to. I actually thought no one's going to turn up, so I was just stood smug thinking, I've got away with this, I don't have to do it, and then people started to walk in. So my name's Jo Talbot, I'm one of the directors at the Royal Lifesaving Society, and I'm going to talk to you today about swimming pool supervision technology, and really explain where we are as an industry now in 2026 and what might the future hold for technology. I'm going to talk about RLSS's approach to technology and what our view is. I'll tell you a little bit about the technology that's available in the UK, that is available to purchase, and then I'll talk to you about some of the free guidance that's available in the industry, and then I'll open up for questions. And as there's a nice small group, it's like free consultancy, so just ask me any question you want about pool safety and I'll answer it. So technology is absolutely everywhere we look now, from getting up in the morning, looking at your phone, to driving in your car, to work and using a little bit of technology to help you draft emails or write presentations. It's absolutely everywhere. You can see on the screen here, you've got the rip current detection on the coast. You've got the referees that they now use to check whether somebody is over the line or not. You've got the supermarket technology. It's absolutely everywhere. As an industry, as a swimming pool industry, we weren't really adopting technology. We were quite stubborn in our ways and we didn't really use technology. But that's really started to change, certainly since the 2000s. So there's different types of technology that's available for swimming pools. There is CCTV that can be underwater or overhead, and that really gives the lifeguard the view of something they physically cannot see. So if you manage a leisure pool, or a pool with blind spots, this is where technology can really help you. There's wearable submersion detection, which is used by mainly sort of hotel chains and spa chains, but where the individuals that are going in the pool wear a device, a little bit like a watch, and if that device goes under the water for a period of time, an alarm would sound and tell the duty manager or the manager that something's wrong because someone's submerged in the water. And then there's monitoring and detection technology, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, because that is really encompassing things like AI now, and that's really the high-tech technology I talk about when I talk about swimming pool technology. So what is monitoring and detection technology? Well, it's a combination of overhead and underwater cameras that are coupled with software, computer software, that can analyze what's going on. So in simple terms, I'm quite simple with things. In simple terms, a camera goes up on the wall or a camera goes in the water, and the camera watches all your swimmers at all times. The camera is sending that data back to a server unit in an office, and that server unit is analyzing exactly what's happening, and it's looking to see whether there's anything abnormal. If the server unit detects anything abnormal, it sends a message back through to either watches or monitors, which then alert the lifeguard that there's a problem in the pool, and that lifeguard can go and investigate and respond to that problem. If you've never seen, has anyone seen this before? A few of you. If you've never seen it, try and go and see it somewhere, because I remember the first time I saw it and I thought, this is a load of rubbish. I've been lifeguarding since '96. This can't work. And it was demoed to me, and I literally stood there in silence for ages because I was like, this is really good. This actually supports and helps the lifeguard. So the benefits of monitoring and detection technology, that AI type technology that watches what's going on in the pool, is it supports lifeguards. We're the Royal Lifesaving Society UK, we will absolutely fight for the lifeguards, and it supports lifeguards. It enhances safety, so it makes your swimming pool safer, but it also provides pool operators with a few things. One, a solution to manage blind spots and design challenges. Two, data for swimming pool use, and literally some of the data that's available will tell you how many people are in which lane for how long each second of every single day. There's nothing at the moment on the market that can count how many people are in the pool every second of every day. But also it can provide an opportunity to manage overhead costs. And I think sometimes people get a little bit worried when I say this and say, oh, what, do you mean replace lifeguards? And I go, no. I mean, if you've got a 6-lane swimming pool and on a Saturday afternoon you've got 80 kids in there bombing and jumping and mainly being kids, you put 2 lifeguards on. But what a lot of pools do is still put 2 lifeguards on when you've got 24 swimmers lane swimming on a Tuesday morning. That's crazy to me. 2 lifeguards for those 80 kids, but the same 2 lifeguards for a low-risk session. So what some operators are doing is saying, let's put tech in as an extra layer of safety, and let's treat those low-risk sessions differently and have 1 lifeguard rather than the 2 lifeguards that are needed for the 80 kids, which is kind of common sense. And I presented this last week to a group of people, and somebody from the HSE was there. And she, like, I sort of watched her a few times, and she was nodding when I was saying that, because actually the way you supervise your pools should be down to risk assessment. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. They just put it down to what the table says in managing safety in swimming pools. And when the table says 2 lifeguards, they chuck 2 lifeguards on. Well, actually, if you look at risk assessment and you look at control measures like technology, you could manage it differently. So this might surprise you in a second. We have 13% of swimming pools now using this monitoring and detection AI technology, 13%. We've got 2,882 sites with swimming pools in the UK. 388 of those have this technology. Now, if I go back to before COVID, I hate saying COVID, but it's quite a good moment in time, isn't it, to say pre-COVID. If you talk pre-COVID, that was about 5%. So this is rapidly increasing, and I would say to all of you, try and go and see it. And if your if your swimming pool has some money to invest, or you have an opportunity to look at installing technology in your swimming pool, definitely have a look. So within the UK, we've got 4 companies that supply the UK with this technology. And I thought, rather than bring them all here with me, I would play you a video of each of their systems and tell you a little bit about it. So the first one I'm going to show you is Angeli. It's a company that aren't based in the UK, but they supply the UK. And their system works with overhead and underwater cameras. So this will see how technology works now, whether this will play.
Imagine you could slow down time to see everything around you sharp and clear. Imagine you could monitor huge areas full of people, including young kids. Imagine you could look further, see deeper, below the water surface. Welcome to the future of swimming pool safety. Welcome to the world of Angeli. Our artificial intelligence technology is a vital aid that alerts lifeguards to the telltale signs of a swimmer in distress, helping to prevent drownings. The network of video cameras mounted above and below the water covers the entire pool surface to identify and pinpoint any dangers. Thanks to the combination of our cameras and patented LED system, the water just got a whole lot safer. Angeli Lifeguard triggers an immediate alarm if a swimmer is in peril, helping to avoid panic even in critical situations. Because for us, keeping everyone safe is more than a job. It's a mission.
What I will point out with that video is we don't often have lifeguards that sit in a room looking at CCTV cameras in the UK. However, they do abroad. Quite often in Europe, you will see lifeguards sat in a room with cameras. So I like to try and point that out. So their system works with underwater cameras and overhead cameras. And you saw it was monitoring exactly what was going on in the pool. The lifeguard got a notification. The lifeguard could see where that person was in the pool and could take action. That's the, if anyone is interested, that's an email of the gentleman that looks after the UK in terms of Angeli. So if anyone's interested in Angeli, that would be the person you contact. The next company is a company called Linksight, which is quite a new company. They came on the market about 7 years ago. And the difference with Linksight is they work with only overhead cameras. So I've worked in swimming pools for a long time, and I used to look after quite a large number of swimming pools, and we built quite a lot of pools. And if you go to a build team after they've built a pool and say, can we drill into the side of the pool and put a camera in? Absolutely not, Joe. Not for at least 10 years. You are not drilling into the side of a multi-million-pound pool. So actually what Linksight does is allow a retrofit where as in after the pool's built, with no real problems with the pool tank or the pool surround, because the cameras just go up on the side of the pool. So I will play this video and you can have a look at their system. So you see overhead cameras, it's watching everyone within the pool. It actually gives you the head count, so it tells you how many people are in the pool at all times. And in under 20 seconds, it will send a message to the lifeguard. So as soon as it identifies something, within 20 seconds, it will notify the lifeguard, tell the lifeguard where the person is, and the lifeguard can go and investigate. Now, thankfully, you can see the guy was just holding his breath and messing around. But actually, that goes to show that this isn't just about rescuing a casualty. This is about the system notifying you of something that's abnormal. Something's not quite right. And if you've heard me present before, I often present about how casualties present themselves if they're in difficulty, and it's never the same. I've seen people sink vertically onto their knees at the edge of the pool when they're having a heart attack. I've seen people move for up to 1.5 minutes underwater when they're having a seizure that looks like swimming. So this is where this system is really, really good. So that system is overhead cameras only, watches for the lifeguards, detect any abnormal behaviour and notifies the lifeguard. And these are the two guys that look after the operation in the UK and would be able to help you if you had any questions. And then I'm going to show you one more, and this is Poolview. So Poolview is actually a UK-based company. So the other two are both foreign companies. This is UK-based, and they've been around for quite a long time. They've got more installations than any other supplier at the moment. Let's see whether we can get this one to play. Everyone's in a blue box whilst they're all okay. As soon as they submerge and stay there for 10 seconds, they turn into a yellow box. So the system is now recognising there's a problem. It counts for a little bit longer, and then it turns it into a red alert. So this system works totally on underwater cameras. However, Poolview have brought out an overhead version as well. So what you've seen today is their underwater system, but they've got an overhead system as well. So you're probably thinking, Joe, these all work in a similar way. And you're right, they do. They track the swimmers at all times. And if they identify something that's abnormal, submersion or something else, they notify the lifeguard through a monitor or a watch. And that's the details of Helen in the UK, who looks after this system. So that's the current systems that are available in the UK. There is one more called Poseidon, which you can have a look at online. And they range in price. I always get asked, so Joe, how much is this? Thinking it's really expensive. It's actually not that bad. I say not that bad in the grand scheme of things. So they range from about 20,000 up to about 200,000, depending on which system you select and your type of pool. But the point is, you can get a system for 20,000, I think is pretty good. And if you're looking at, when we talked about those risks and risk assessing your sessions, actually, if you could use less lifeguards for your low risk sessions, you could actually fund that system really easily. So definitely worth looking into. So that's taken you up until today. That's what's currently available. You know how many systems are in the UK. That's what's currently available on the market. But what does the future hold? Well, there's a new international standard that's going to be launched next year. And this standard will be then translated into British standard. But it's going to be great for the industry because it's going to meet the standard. The tech providers will have to make sure their system can do these three things: detect submersion with a struggle, submersion without struggle, but inactive person at the water surface. So in 2027, when the British standard is launched, the systems are going to have to be loads better. What does that tell me? These systems are developing and evolving all the time. So they're just getting better and better. And if you're looking at these systems, ask the tech providers is if their software is improved over time, does your system get improved as well? And you'll probably find that whatever software update they do, it gets applied across any initial installs. So people say to me, but what do RLSS say? Because you're the experts in pool safety. Well, we actively encourage the use of swimming pool supervision technology to enhance safety and support lifeguards. I would never say to replace all lifeguards, and I'll tell you why a little bit later, but to absolutely support lifeguards, we're fully behind it. We're the leading water safety experts. Swimming pool safety sits at the heart of everything we do. Our aim is to prevent drowning so that everyone can enjoy water safely, and we're proud to be a key part in developing the guidance, which I'm going to talk to you about shortly, and helping the industry to understand this technology and embed it. So the question is, will technology ever replace lifeguards? The answer to that is no. I might not be stood here in 10 years, hopefully, but if I am stood here in 10 years, it might be a different answer because tech might be very different then. But at the moment in time, tech can't replace lifeguards. And that's because lifeguards are critical to prevent accidents. This will identify, these systems will identify when something's gone wrong or going wrong. Lifeguards stop it even before it gets to that point. So little Billy runs out the change rooms. He's 3 years old. He's loving life because he's going to the swimming pool on a Wednesday afternoon. His mum's still trying to get a swimming costume on, and he runs out the pool. Technology is not going to say to him, hold on a minute, who's looking after you today? You should have an adult with you. So lifeguards are really important with prevention. They actively educate pool users. They intervene before accidents occur, and they're essential for rescue, recovery, CPR, and first aid. And unless we get to this point, we'll struggle to get those people that technology identifies out of the pool. So the message from me today is there is absolutely still a need for lifeguards. But, and there is a but here, lifeguards are human like every single one of you. The environment they work in is sometimes very hot, humid, and noisy. And it really I've done quite a lot of work in this area. And in European airports, staff viewing the luggage scanners to make sure you haven't got anything in there you shouldn't have only remain in that position for up to 30 minutes. So there's other parts of the world where actually we know that someone concentrating heavily on something, it's tough work. So we do quite a lot of research, and I want to show you about a research project. And I'm sorry if anyone, Mandy might have seen this before. I'm sorry if people have seen this information, but it's quite interesting. So we commissioned the University of Chichester to work with us on a project, which also included the King's College London. And I said to the research team, I want to know how good lifeguards are at spotting hazards, how good they are at spotting something going wrong in the pool. So the team developed something called a bobbing along. And essentially, they created a grid. They put people in that grid, animations of people. And we had 6 bathers, 32 bathers, 48 bathers. And we had different drowning durations and drowning locations. But essentially, the lifeguard sat on what is a lifeguard chair in a lab where the screen was like a real pool. So they had to move their head like that. And they scanned the pool. If they saw someone disappearing, they had to press a buzzer and tell us where it was. And we did that with quite a lot of lifeguards. So I'm going to just play it for you and see if I'm going to have to remember now, because I haven't used this for a while, which one disappears. But there are 16 people swimming in that pool. Keep scanning it and see if you can tell me which one disappears. I'm going to have to do it as well, because I can't actually remember. So there's 16. If you see it, you can put your hands up. Mandy, no cheating. Okay, if you've got it. The one down here. But that's not a real swimming pool, is it? But let's see how the lifeguards did. So these are the results. And don't be too scared, because we've changed some stuff at RLSS to make this better. So I'm just going to come off the mic to explain to you. So these are 5-minute durations, basically. So this block here is the first 5 minutes, second 5 minutes, third 5 minutes, etc. And this up here is the number, like the percentage of lifeguards that identified the person had drowned. So let's take the first 5 minutes. Pretty much, the dark line is experienced lifeguards. All of them spotted that person disappearing. But look what happens over time. Okay, forget from here onwards. For this first section, even the good lifeguards, the experienced lifeguards, the black line, they didn't spot everything. Okay? The other line, the grey line, is actually inexperienced lifeguards. And last year we put in our qualification a scanning practice video, which meant that the lifeguards who weren't as good became really good. So the new lifeguards became as good as the experienced lifeguards. And we did a lot of research around that. But what this tells me is you cannot expect your lifeguards to spot everything. They're human. But they're no different to all of you sat here today. How many times do you drive off your drive and go, did I lock the front door? Or in my case, did I turn off the hair straighteners? Driving along the motorway, have I passed the services? I'm sure I haven't. Like, it happens, we're human, and I think sometimes we forget about that. And quite often, if there's an incident in a swimming pool, they'll contact me and say, Joe, the lifeguard just didn't see it. It's awful, like, we're going to sack the lifeguard, they just didn't see it. And I say, just stop a minute. How many people were in the pool? Well, there was 74. The lifeguard should have spotted it. Okay, but the lifeguard's human, and there are 74 people in that swimming pool. That's a lot to expect the lifeguard to see everything that's going on with all 74 people every second. So I think the point of putting this up here is just to remind you all that lifeguards are human. They're not rubbish by any means. They are good. They are excellent. We know they're great at educating. We know they're amazing when they have to rescue and recover. And we know they're good at spotting hazards, but they can't spot everything. And just to show you how bad it gets from the red down to the end, it gets pretty bad. That's the last 30 minutes. And RLSS now say, since last or year before last, you shouldn't lifeguard in one position for more than 30 minutes. So after you've been somewhere for 30 minutes, you should change and go to a different position to stop that real bad decay. And for those of you that weren't convinced with my bobbing along animation, we redid the research using a real pool and real people. And guess what? We got similar results. So something exciting is happening this year. We're carrying on our research with the University of Chichester, but our research this year is going to be on technology. So we're actually going to drill down and look at the impact of technology for lifeguards, for pool managers, but also pool users. I'm really keen to understand what the general public think about this, because a lot of the time people come to me, and I hope there's no counsellors in the audience. I'm not going to be really rude about them, but people come to me and say, Jo, we really want to put this tech in, but we're a council pool and the council won't let us. They don't want technology being put into swimming pools. They don't want swimmers being watched. And I have to then try and educate a group of counsellors or even public that have campaigned against it that actually this is nothing to be worried about and this is really good stuff. So hopefully this research will really help us to understand lifeguards' perception before and after using it, pool managers before and after, and also pool users. So really interesting research project that we're embarking on this year. So what I wanted to do before, I've got a few more slides, but is to tell you about this guidance. So there is free guidance. Not very often you get stuff really free, but on our website there's free guidance. This guidance was created by this group of people, and I'm going to explain who they are because I think it gives credibility to the guidance. So top left is Andy Reid. He's a swimming pool safety expert, managed hundreds of swimming pools or the safety of them for a long time. Ben Beavis is one of the directors at Everyone Active, one of the biggest swimming pool operators in the UK, and has safety within his portfolio. Some of you might recognise Ian Ogilvie, next one along. He's here somewhere. Ian is an expert witness and one of the main water safety consultants in the UK. Rich Lambert works for Swim England and has a lot of knowledge and understanding of pool safety. Caleb Brown is a head of safety for David Lloyd that has hundreds of swimming pools. Andy Eben, which some of you might not recognise but might know the name. Andy Eben has been within the industry a long time in terms of safety and is probably on most legal cases to do with fatalities in swimming pools. His knowledge is phenomenal. Alan Ritchie works for GLL, another big operator, and heads up sort of safety and lifeguarding. And just me, I don't really know much, but I kind of just pulled them together and I just look after them. But we got together about 5 years ago and we said the industry needs some help. They need some guidance on what to do about technology. And so we created this guidance. This guidance tells you what you need to consider if you're looking at technology, because it isn't straightforward. Some technology needs your turbidity in the water to be amazing. Some technology has to be installed underwater. Some technology means your lifeguards have to wear something, or they have to have something called the lifeguard chair. So that guidance document helps you through that decision process, but it also helps you understand what you need to do once you've put tech in as well. So it's free and it's available. It's now in its 4th edition. Oh, I've lost the picture. There was a lovely picture of the guidance on the left, but you've seen it. It's in its 4th edition, just been published last week. It's available for free on our website and on UK Active's website. And we update it every year, and there was an update this year, and it's just a change to add in the PewTag guidance for turbidity. And if I just say to you that actually if you stood on the edge of that pool and looked into the water, the water on the right didn't actually look that bad. As a normal person looking at I know we've got some tech people here, but as a normal person looking at that water, it didn't actually look that bad. But under the water, the cameras couldn't operate. They couldn't detect the swimmers to be able to know when something was going wrong. On the left-hand side, that's perfect turbidity, absolutely crystal clear. And the reason we put a bit more information in about turbidity is it is a really important thing to consider and look at when you're looking at systems, is actually how good does the turbidity in your pool need to be. So, any questions? There's a bigger group now, so I'm going back on my question of ask me anything. No, I'm joking. You can ask me anything about pool safety or technology. Yeah? So,
multiple casualties.
Very good question. So some of them will do it, some won't. And this is where when you're looking at tech, you need to ask all the questions you want to ask. I know one particular one, I'm not going to say names because it wouldn't be right for me to, but one particular system can identify up to 5. And what it does is, unless you respond and say, I've got that casualty, it will keep alarming. And then it adds in more watches, and then it adds in like the duty manager's monitor and all sorts of things. So it almost, if you don't respond and say, I'm looking after this casualty, or there's a second casualty or a third casualty, fourth or fifth, it will just keep, by which point you're sick of hearing alarms. But the point is, you can't ignore the second, third, fourth, fifth casualty. So really good question, and something, if you're looking at tech, you need to sit down with those tech providers and drill them and say, what does your system do? And then say, does it do this? Does it do this? Does it do this? Does it do this? Because let's be fair, if it can't do something, if it can't look, let's say you've got bubble water, you've got areas of your pool where there's bubbles. If it can't do bubbles, then you can look at managing those bubbles in a different way. So I've got a client I work with, and they have got a bubble area, and they were using tech, and they were saying the tech doesn't work in the bubble area, Joe. And I'm like, well, where's the lifeguard? And they were like, well, the lifeguard's next to the bubble area. And they were like, but they can't see the bottom because of the bubbles. And I said, well, put your bubbles on a rotation. So they come on for a period and go off for a period and on for a period and off for a period. And guess what? When they're off, the lifeguard can see through the water and see the bottom. So there's other ways to manage it if the tech can't manage it. Okay, any other questions at the back?
Any advantages or disadvantages with cameras above water versus below water? Just from a perspective of a Lido that's looking to retrofit a system in currently and starting to look at providers, and actually above ground is difficult, but also below ground is difficult.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons. I think what you've got to consider if you go just underwater is that I might stop on the side of the pool for a rest in front of a camera. Now, that's not going to provide a very nice view to anyone, but the point is, if that camera then can't see across the pool, the camera can't detect. So if you go just on underwater, you need to think about how you'll manage people that cover the camera, whether they be in a lesson or just stop and have a rest. With just overheads, if you have inflatables in your pool or anything where you create a blind spot, it probably isn't good. Well, it's not going to work, is it? If you put a big 20-meter inflatable down the middle of your pool, it can't see through the inflatable. So that's probably something to consider. Potentially look at that combination. But I would, if you're looking at it, I'd get each of those suppliers to come down to your pool, and I'd stand them on the edge and say, okay, can your system work in the pool? Tell me everything it can't do, because I want to know now to be able to manage it rather than afterwards. There is a case going on at the moment where somebody didn't know the limitations of a system, and that's really important, and we're doing a little bit of work on that for online learning, because you have to understand the limitations of a system. It's no different to anything you buy. You should understand what it doesn't do, because then you don't rely on it to do that.
Do they work as well with really busy pools?
So again, something to ask them. I've seen 2 of the systems work where there's over 100 people in a pool. So I've seen them work in really, really busy conditions. But again, you need to really grill them, because if it's just underwater and the pool's really busy and it's relying on seeing across the pool and there's 100 people in the pool, they would need to tell you if it works or not. Really, really good question.
Joe, we've got a system which can identify. What regs do they need to go through, or is it just the 4 systems up there in the UK that we can use, or can we potentially go to our CCTV company and say, well, we know you can identify, but what process do they need to go through to be part of the RLS 4 systems?
So to be honest, the 4 systems are just the 4 systems that I know are installed in the UK. We don't endorse systems. That's not what we do. If there's another system coming to the UK, I'll just include them when I talk about it. For me, I know all those 4 systems are in the UK. I know they're used by UK operators. I've got no doubt in my mind those 4 systems will become about 15 in 10 years' time, because there is so much tech being developed in the world. I went to a world conference back last year about drowning prevention, and there were loads of people presenting different tech. I mean, the tech they've got for rip currents in Japan is unbelievable. So I think there'll become more and more and more systems. Ultimately, at the moment, there is one guidance document from the British Standards Institute. And if a technology provider comes into the UK, in theory, if they've got any sense, they'll make sure they comply with that British standard.
Hi Joe, you mentioned earlier in your PowerPoint about managing overheads and potential savings alongside the technology. I'm very eager to learn more about the technology and hopefully install it in our pools. If my bosses were sat here today and they saw the savings, they'd be licking your shoes. But for me, if there's a serious incident, regardless of the risk assessment of the session, even if there's only one person in the pool, I would still want the right amount of lifeguards to carry out, say, spinal. What's your view on that, please?
So, with everything, and I stand here having been a pool operator and been through this process, with everything, you've got to take your time and you've got to carefully consider everything. So, we'll take spinal in a minute. In terms of can you manage your lifeguard numbers differently, I think you have to carefully walk through that. You have to go back to stage 1. There are 3 tests to tell you how many lifeguards you need. People don't normally realise this. The first test is the table in managing safety in swimming pools. That table only relates to unprogrammed swimming. So if you've got programmed swimming, which is swim club, swimming lessons, anything that's structured, organised, instructor-led, programmed, controlled and organised, then that's program session, and therefore the table doesn't matter, so you drop that test off. So let's imagine we've got a club swimming session. We'd ignore the table because the table is for unprogrammed. So our next test is an LZVT. So we do an LZVT, a lifeguard zone visibility test, and it says we need 1 lifeguard. So we record that LZVT to show that 1 lifeguard can supervise the whole pool. The final test is the 20-second test to check that the lifeguard can get to any part of that zone within 20 seconds. Those 3 tests determine how many lifeguards you need, nothing else. The problem we've got is we're in this scenario where we've always had 2 lifeguards on that pool. And this is what I mean when I say take time. Go back. Imagine it's a new build. Get a plain sheet of paper. Imagine it's a new build and go through those tests to work out how many lifeguards you need. It might be that you've had more lifeguards than what you need, or it might be that bringing tech in means that you can risk assess and do it differently. So that's sort of that point. And I'd be happy to, if you get my details from the stand over there, I'd be happy to jump on a Teams call with your bosses and go through it with them. In terms of spinal extraction, I don't know of an actual spinal injury in this industry over the last 10 years, an actual spinal injury. Okay, there's suspected spinal injuries, but an actual spinal injury is very hard to find. However, the HSE have put within their guidance that if there is a risk of a spinal injury, you should have an extraction device. And guess what? If you have an extraction device, you need enough people to use that extraction device. But if you use our qualification, you look at our qualification, you don't need 5 qualified people or 3 qualified people for certain extraction devices. You need people that are trained. But I can come into your centre and train your receptionists and your gym staff to be competent in helping your lifeguards. So don't get hung up on the fact you always need 5 lifeguards in your building at all times to use a board, because that's not always the case. You're going to tell me that there was a spinal injury, aren't you?
I'm just going to say we're working on probability now, so yeah. I'm back at work on Saturday. Let's hope that probability doesn't happen.
But my point is, I think we do talk about spinal all the time, but we still have to manage it, don't we? We work in a swimming pool where people do dive in, where people do slip over. We have to manage it. So yeah, absolutely. But I get so many phone calls where people say, oh, we need 5 lifeguards because in case we have a spinal. You need 5 lifeguards? No, you don't. You need enough people to manage that incident, but it doesn't have to be 5 qualified lifeguards. I think my time might be up. Is my time up? Sorry. There's me thinking I'd finish really early and have nobody in the audience. I'm hanging around, so if you've got other questions, come and see me. I'm just over there. Thank you very much.